Here we are again. Here we are again. Now, many of you are not surprised that we're here. I'm not surprised that we're here. I think we should have been here sooner. But here we are again with another sweeping indictment of the former president, Donald Trump. Should Trump go to jail? The 2024 election could become a referendum on that very question. Your man Diamond K in here, of course, the Diamond K Show, ONFIRE-TV, radio on fire. The 2024 election could determine whether or not Donald Trump goes to the White House. It could also determine whether or not he might face actual time behind bars. Donald Trump has been indicted in efforts to overturn the 2020 election. He tried to block the transfer of power, according to the indictment. And it is sweeping. It is. Donald Trump indicted on felony charges on Tuesday for working to overturn the 2020 election. Of course, this is in the run-up to the violent riot. Don't let Republicans get it twisted, y'all. Don't let them pull the wool over your eyes. It was a violent riot by his supporters at the U.S. Capitol. Now, the Department of Justice is making an attempt to hold him accountable for the unprecedented effort to block the peaceful transfer of presidential power, thus threatening American democracy, small d. Now, you're going to hear Republicans say all kind of stuff. Oh, he's just questioning, and he thought this and he thought that. You have to understand this, Republicans. You do not want Democrats to do this. If you allow Donald Trump to do these things, you will be destroying this American democratic small d experiment. The 4-count indictment, the third criminal case against Donald Trump, provided deeper insight into a dark moment that has already been subject to the exhaustive federal investigations, the public hearings from last year. It chronicles the months-long campaign of lies. Donald Trump lies about the election results and says that even when those lies resulted in a chaotic insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, Donald Trump sought to exploit that very violence by pointing to it as a reason to further delay the counting of votes that sealed his defeat. He was so upset, I could never lose to Trump. Election's rigged if I lose to Trump. You lost by more than 7 million votes. You lost. You lost. And most people, 9 out of 10, would have been able to accept those results and move on, move forward. But he was unable, chose not to do that. Tuesday's indictment with charges including conspiring to defraud the United States government, the government that he once led, it was stunning in its allegations, according to the AP, that a former president assaulted the bedrock function of democracy. It's the first time that a defeated president, who is the early frontrunner for the next year's Republican presidential nomination, is facing legal consequences for his frantic but untimely failed effort to cling on to power. Couldn't let it go. Could not let it go. Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith said that The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. It was fueled by lies, Jack Smith said. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government. The nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. Jack Smith, of course, vilified by the right. He has prosecuted and convicted Democrats and Republicans. He's not partisan. Trump's campaign called the charges fake. Oh, no, the charges are real. And asked why it took 2.5 years to bring them. Oh, I wanted them sooner, but had they come sooner, Republicans would say, they're rushing to judgment. They should take their time and investigate this, right? So you can't win with Republicans. Maybe that's why they're losing all the time. Anyway, Trump was the only person charged in Tuesday's indictment. Prosecutors referenced to half a dozen co-conspirators, including lawyers inside and outside the government, who they said worked with Trump to undo the election results. Oh, y'all are going down. They also advanced legal schemes to enlist slates of fake electors in battleground states that were won by Joe Biden. And they tried to falsely claim that Trump actually won them. This was definitely a conspiracy. The indictment accuses the defeated president, Donald Trump, and his allies of trying to exploit the violence and the chaos by calling lawmakers into the evening on January 6th to delay the certification of Biden's victory. It also cites handwritten notes from former Vice President Mike Pence that give gravitas to Trump's relentless goading to reject the electoral votes. Pence, who is challenging Trump, ironically, for the Republican presidential nomination, declined the pressure. But it is what it is with regards to that. He appeared only after losing a court fight with prosecutors learning that Trump, in one conversation with him, said that he was too honest to stop the certification. The vice president in this role is just ceremonial, right? It's just a formality. Just a formality. Trump is due in court tomorrow, Thursday, the first step in a legal process that will play out in a courthouse situated between the White House he once controlled, how ironic is that, and the U.S. Capitol that his supporters once stormed. Oh, how poetic this is. The case is already being dismissed by the former president and his flunkies, and even some of his quote-unquote rivals for the presidential nomination. They say that it's just another politically motivated prosecution. Keep in mind, no one set him up. This case is coming from things that he did. Yet they're trying to act like, somebody. There was no entrapment. Trump did. He's facing, or hopefully facing, some kind of accountability from actions that he took. Now, the indictment centers on the 2 turbulent months after the November 2020 election, which Trump refused to accept his loss, and he lost by over 7 million votes, by the way. Continued to spread lies that the victory was stolen from him. Now, the turmoil resulted in this riot at the Capitol, where Trump loyalists and other flunkies violently broke into the building, attacked police officers, disrupted the congressional counting of the electoral votes. Now, in between the election and the riot, Trump urged local election officials to undo the voting results in their states. He tried to pressure Pence to stop the certification of the electoral votes and falsely claimed that the election had been stolen. This is a notion repeatedly rejected by judges. They took this to court over and over and over again. Over 60 times they lost in court. Now, among those lies, prosecutors say, were claims that more than 10,000 dead people voted and had voted in Georgia, along with tens of thousands of double votes in Nevada. Each claim had been rebutted by courts or state or federal officials, according to the indictment. Now, the document carefully outlined arguments that Trump has been making to defend his conduct, that he had every right to challenge the results, which he did, challenge the results, to use the courts, and he had the right to even lie about it in the process, right? It is his right. You got freedom of speech. You can say what you want. But here's the thing, and it's detailed in the indictment. The former president instead took criminal steps to reverse the clear verdict that the voters had rendered. Let me say that again. He had the right to lie. It's freedom of speech. But the difference is you can say what you want to say, but when you take criminal steps to reverse the clear verdict of the voters, criminal steps, oh, you've gone too far. People talk about freedom of speech, blah, 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 blah. All that is true. You can lie. That's freedom of speech. But once you act, once you make criminal moves to further the lie, oh, now you got a problem. Now you have a problem. Okay? You cannot go into a bank and write down that this is a stick up, and then you give it to the teller. And then when they bring you up on charges, you say, oh, people can't write stuff. I've got freedom to write down whatever I want. No, you can write down whatever you want. But once you start using those efforts to commit a crime, then you have problems. Now, this mounting criminal case, it is unfolding, unfortunately, right in the heat of the 2024 race. Now, a conviction in this case or any other would not prevent Trump from running for or serving as president. Now, Trump as president could theoretically appoint an attorney general to dismiss the charges or potentially try to pardon himself. And I think that is what he is trying to do. He's also facing state charges, which he cannot pardon himself for. There are going to be other people that are charged in separate cases. They didn't want to attach any other defendants to this because, they don't want to slow things down. This is an interesting time that we live in. As I said, former President Donald Trump brought on some serious charges. And I know that folks at home are probably tired of hearing, oh, he's indicted again. He's this, he's that. But there's a lot that we can take away from Trump's indictment. As I said, this indictment, it alleges a campaign of fraud and deceit. These newest charges, Trump's third criminal indictment this year, include conspiracy to defraud the United States government and conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, the congressional certification of President Joe Biden's victory. It describes how Trump repeatedly told supporters and others that he won the election, which he did not. He knew that it was false. And he tried to persuade state officials, his own vice president, and even Congress to overturn the legitimate results. He tried. Oh, he tried it. Trump knew. All right. Let's not get it twisted. Some aides directly refuted conspiracy theories stirred by Trump and his lawyer, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Others told him point blank, you lost. There is no world, there is no option in which you do not leave the White House on January the 20th. There's no world where that happens. The defendant knew that this was false accusations about him winning. Trump lost. He knew that he lost. Now, Pence, surprisingly, and credit to him, the indictment includes new details of former Vice President Mike Pence, who fought efforts to answer questions about his role in presiding over the congressional certification. Pence kept notes about his interactions with Trump, and the former president tried to convince him to delay and reject the legitimate election results. That is interesting. A lot of takeaways. The fake electors got tricked into this crazy move. Early on, Trump's team orchestrated this scheme to enlist officials in seven states that he lost: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, New Mexico, and Wisconsin. So he wanted them to submit alternate election certificates saying that he actually won when Congress met to certify the vote on January the 6th. And of course, this is a problem. Now, the indictment alleges Trump enlisted 6 people to help him attempt to overturn the 2020 election. The 6 people were not specifically named, but the indictment includes details that make it possible to identify most of them. Co-conspirator 1 and co-conspirator 2 are Rudy Giuliani and John Eastman. A third attorney, who they call in the indictment co-conspirator number 3, is attorney Sidney Powell. Jeffrey Clark, a Justice Department official who championed Trump's lies about the election fraud, is described as co-conspirator number 4. Co-conspirator number 5 is an attorney named Kenneth Chesbro, who the indictment says assisted in devising and attempting to implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential electors and obstruct the certification proceeding. Co-conspirator number 6 is an unknown political consultant who assisted with the fake electors. There are no known charges against the listed co-conspirators thus far. So Trump's mounting bills, the sheer number of investigations, criminal cases, and lawsuits brought against Trump, just unprecedented. The same could be said for the tens of millions of dollars in legal fees that is being paid out to attorneys representing him, his allies. It's definitely starting to strain the finances of his campaign. That's why this, so-called billionaires like, give me money. I need money, please. Can I have money? Can you give me some more money? Right? Very interesting. Very interesting. These sweeping charges, and there's still probably more coming in Georgia. Probably more coming. Fascinating times we live in. Republicans, this is your guy? This is who you want? Well, that's what it appears. It appears that Republicans want Donald Trump to represent them. He can and probably will win the Republican nomination, but the general election, that's a whole nother thing. You already lost in 2020 by over 7 million votes. What do you think is going to happen in 2024? Republicans, you're making it too easy. This is the guy. Listen, Biden wants to run against Trump. And Biden, he doesn't even want to run really. But he's like, if it's going to be against Trump, I got this. Okay. Definitely. You made Diamond K in here, the Diamond K Show on Fire-TV, Radio on Fire, of course, on all social media. I am at The Diamond K Show, djdiamondk@gmail.com. Fascinating times. We're going to continue to follow this story.